Very first abortion in Ireland was performed by a saint. St Brigid of Kildare, that's right, one of the patron saints of Ireland, was the first to perform the miracle. That's right, miracle. Let me explain. Back when she was alive in the 5th and 6th century, Brigid was an abbess. One day, a young nun comes to her for help. And being a good Christian, she does so. This young nun comes to her for guidance because she has broken her vow of chastity. Because the result was, she was pregnant. Brigid blessed the girl, performing a termination. According to the text, she laid her holy hands upon the girl and yeetus that fetus. That's right, God decided it was okay to pray the baby away.
Okay, where to begin with that? This is definitely not a justification for abortion, especially not for Catholics. To frame the miracle of St Brigid as a termination is an ahistorical, unacademic, liberal cope to weaponize medieval folklore against authentic Catholic teaching. So let's break this down. We have to begin with the obvious difference between fact and folklore. If we're going to mess with medieval literature, we at least have to do so on its own terms. Early hagiographical literature like this, which I'm sure Katie knows, was never preoccupied with accurate historicity like we are in the 21st century. It's precisely for that reason that the moral doctrine of the Church is never based upon these kind of stories, but on scripture and authoritative tradition, so don't be misled. In terms of the text itself, the earliest known account of St Brigid's life was penned by a guy named Cogitotus in the year 650 AD, at least 100 years after her death, so immediately there is a significant historical gap. Sean Connolly, not Connery, one of the foremost scholars and translators of Cogitotus, says of this text himself, "At first sight, it might appear that he had just strung together at random a series of miracles of folkloric interest to entertain his readers. But the more closely one examines the narratives, the more obvious it becomes that his purpose is much deeper. He is writing primarily for the edification of his readers. He has a catechetical aim, namely to inculcate some quite profound theological lessons of cardinal importance." And he goes on to say, those are namely faith and charity. So with that in mind, let's read the earliest and non-paraphrased account of St Brigid. "With a strength of faith most powerful and ineffable, she blessed a woman who after a vow of virginity had lapsed through weakness into youthful concupiscence, as a result of which her womb had begun to swell with pregnancy. In consequence, what had been conceived in the womb disappeared, and she restored her to health and to penitence, without childbirth or pain. And in accordance with the saying that all things are possible to those who believe, she went on working countless miracles every day, without anything ever proving impossible." A few observations. Number one, the text never says terminate or abort. Those terms are being shoehorned into the story later by modern activists. What the text actually says is, what had been conceived in the womb disappeared. So if we really want to get pedantic about details, God miraculously making someone disappear is quite morally different from someone intentionally killing another. And number two, although it is perhaps a clumsy example, it's quite clear that the emphasis of the tale is on the charity of St Brigid towards the other woman, the strength of her faith, and the miraculous power of God. It is clearly not a moral commentary on abortion. But if you are looking for that, you can always consult the Irish Penitential of Finian, written in 591 AD, 70 years before this text, where it explicitly does condemn the practice of abortion. It's well understood among Catholic scholars that in the medieval oral tradition, the boundary between history and story was a very fluid one. Narrative embellishments with unlikely miracles such as this one were never intended to deceive as we might interpret it in the 21st century, rather to inspire and to teach the grace and power of God operative in the souls of his saints. So don't let videos like this one shake your faith in the sure foundation of the Catholic Church. And as always, keep the faith.